Hey guys, welcome back to Rossoneri TV. I'm Gio and I'm here for the match preview of AC Milan against Bologna. It's round 37 of the 2016-2017 Serie A season, and with this match there will be only 2 games remaining this season. It is a very crucial match, a must-win game for Milan as they want to hold on to that Europa League qualification spot, currently sitting in 6th place, 1 point above Fiorentina. Of course, they will be playing their respective match later today against Napoli, and pretty much the scenario in terms for the qualification goes as follows. If Fiorentina fail to win against Napoli and Milan do pick up the 3 points tomorrow against Bologna, Milan will have secured their 6th place position in the Serie A season, which grants them, of course, the 3rd qualifying round for the Europa League, which will be starting near the end of July. But enough with the calculations, let's speak about the match itself. Of course, the first time we met Bologna earlier this season was such a great, exciting match. Very frustrating at times, but Milan ended up winning that game 1-0 after remaining with only 9 players in the pitch at the end of the game there. So it was such an exciting game. Milan found the winner with just moments remaining really through Pasalic, and I have to say there, it was probably one of the most craziest games of the season, just given the circumstances that we won that game in. Much has changed since then, of course. Bologna have nothing to really play for at the moment for the remaining of the season. They're currently sitting in 15th place with 41 points, and like I said, their season is done. They can't qualify for Europe. They cannot get relegated to the Serie B. So these 2 games are pretty much games that they will be playing for pride, because there's nothing else really to play for at the moment, and they will want to spoil the party really at the San Siro, given the fact that Milan beat them at their home ground. They will want to do the same at the San Siro, and even though Bologna has nothing to play for, I keep repeating this week in and week out, really any team in the Serie A could cause upsets, they could score goals, so we must stay on our feet and really play this game as a final, because I've been saying this all along for the past at least 5-6 weeks when I said, there's 5 games remaining, we need to play each game like a final, we need to make sure to get the 3 points, and we haven't done that. And I think this is the perfect opportunity for Milan to win this game at the home ground, at the San Siro, in front of their own fans, to hopefully secure the Europa League. So definitely a very important match. Like I said, a must-win game. A game that I think if we do not win will be very hard for us to actually make it to the Europa League. Yes, right now we are in an advantage, but we still don't know what's going to happen for tonight's game between Napoli and Fiorentina. Fiorentina might as well beat Napoli for all we know, and we're going to be forced to win the next 2 games or something like that. So definitely, we have to take a look at what the other teams are doing, but at the same time, we need to take advantage of the situation. We are currently above Fiorentina, and we need to make sure that we end the season where we want it to end, and that is in that 6th place position. So Bologna actually, they will be without Zemaili, and I didn't mention this before, but of course their main threat is Mattia Desso, their top goal scorer. But their second top goal scorer, Zemaili, has actually been sent to the Montreal Impact, and that's right, that is my city. So Zemaili is playing with my city at the moment, and he was currently playing with Bologna. So that is a big loss for them, in my opinion. Bologna hasn't been the best goal-scoring team this season. As a matter of fact, they only scored 39 goals this season, and really, it's been very tough for them. Defensively, they haven't been doing good. Offensively, same thing goes for that. So really, Bologna hasn't had many positive times. But like I stated before, we need to be careful just the same, because in the Serie A, upsets are very frequent, and anything could happen. Milan, on the other hand, it's 5 games in a row that they cannot win. I'm not entirely sure if this is the longest negative streak that they've had this season, but I think it is. But we need to break it. We need to break it tomorrow. We need to get those 3 points. It's completely unacceptable, first of all, to go 5 games without a win for Milan in the Serie A. And I think enough is enough. Tomorrow, we need to win the game at all costs. I keep repeating it. I don't care if it's ugly. I don't care if it's nice. We need to make sure those 3 points are ours. Now, without further ado, I want to take a look at the Probable starting 11 for Milan, as Montella is once again likely to go with a 3-5-2 formation. Now, this formation didn't particularly work against Atalanta last week. I think it was a lot of trial and error, and Milan had a lot of difficulties, especially defending against Atalanta. I think Atalanta had a very easy time to break through that defense and that midfield, especially on the right flank, where Kuchka and Gustavo Gomez were both playing. Well, tomorrow we won't probably see those players, but we will be seeing a similar formation, like I said, the 3-5-2. So we are more than likely to go with Donnarumma in net, Zapata, Paletta, and Romagnoli making up that back three. I'm pretty sure that's the best back three we could get at the moment, unless you replace Gustavo Gomez with Zapata, and even there, like I said, Gustavo Gomez had his negative times last week. So Paletta, I'm happy that he's returned from his suspension. Hopefully he doesn't pick up another red card to break the record of most red cards in a season. But with all seriousness, I think it's important to have Paletta and Romagnoli back together in this lineup to help fortify that defense. In terms of the 5 mids, we'll be seeing Deulofeu this time on the right side, with Pasalic by his side, Montolivo in the middle, Bertolacci and Vangioni completing the rest of that midfield. And up front, we'll see Lapadula with Bacca. Of course, Suso is suspended for this match and therefore will not be taking part of this game. But I'm actually very excited for the midfield and the forwards. I like how Lapadula will be paired up with Bacca. Of course, many people have been wanting to see that in terms of the two starting together in a match. We have seen the two play together this season, but more times than not, it's been throughout the course of the game, where Lapadula came in, for example, at the 70th minute when Milan were desperate to score goals, and therefore Montella paired them up together. Then there's other people that say Lapadula should not be starting games. He's a player that should be coming in at decisive moments throughout the course of the game. What I mean by this is that over the course of the season, we have seen Lapadula coming in maybe at the 75th or the 80th minute, and in those 10 to 15 minutes that were remaining, that's where he played his best. So many people are contemplating over that fact of whether Lapadula should be granted a start or whether he should be paired up later on into the match. But I'm very excited to see Deulofeu playing in that right mid, sort of wide mid position, because Deulofeu does a lot of work, and I think that position will suit him very well. He's capable of helping out the attack as well as the defense when he needs to track back. We have seen him do that so many times this season, so I'm sure he's capable of doing that again tomorrow. And Vangioni as well, I think he could add an attacking option to that left side, whereas De Sciglio really wasn't capable of doing much last week against Atalanta. He was capable of breaking through, finding spaces, but when it came to the final product, De Sciglio had a lot of trouble. And hopefully Vangioni, his crossing abilities are better than De Sciglio's, that's for sure. So maybe he could help from that left side. So we'll see exactly what those two wide midfielders could do tomorrow. Montolivo once again starting in the middle. We didn't really see much of him last week. He did play the entire match, but he was very absent most of the time. And Bertolacci and Pasalic starting by his side, I think could help out fortify that midfield. So overall, not the worst of lineups. I think it's actually a pretty decent lineup. It should be able to get the job done against Bologna, but then again, should is a big word for Milan. Many times we said that, and they weren't capable of getting the job done. So hopefully tomorrow, it will be a different story, and we will be able to get the 3 points. The very much needed 3 points, that is. In terms of predictions, guys, like I said, we should be able to win the match. We will probably find difficulties like we do all the time, but what's important is that we keep a clean sheet. I think if we are capable of keeping a clean sheet, scoring shouldn't be a problem against this Bologna side. Especially at the San Siro, we should be scoring a couple of goals against them. And like I said, we actually have some pretty decent attacking options tomorrow to get the job done. Now, let me know in the comments section what you guys think about the match. Will we have an easy match going forward? Do you think we'll be capable of getting the 3 points? Also, what do you think about the whole Europa League qualification process at the moment? Maybe give me some updates on what you think could happen in that match against between Napoli and Fiorentina, and that how maybe it might impact Milan's performance tomorrow. Very curious to know about that. So let's get into the comments. Let's see what you guys have to say about this particular match. Mohammed Bakir says, yes, back in Lapadula is good, but 3 at the back, oh no. And like I said last week, I wouldn't personally risk going with 3 in the back. Last week, especially against Atalanta, where they're such a solid attacking team. But maybe we could afford to play 3 at the back against Bologna. Personally, it's not a formation that I see the current Milan going with, but maybe in the future, like next season, when we have players that are more adapted to such roles, maybe that could be an option, an alternate formation to play with. I understand that Montella is switching up tactics, is switching up formations, lineups, and so forth, but for me at least, changing these things at the end of the season is a bit of a risky move. These are the type of things you try out in preseason to see whether they work or not and so forth. And I understand changing things throughout games to facilitate your task, but to me, to start with a formation like this is a bit of a risky move. It was last week. Maybe it's not as risky for this particular game, but still, 3 at the back with Zapata there is always risky when you see it. Paletta Romagnoli should give some sort of certainty to Donnarumma, but then again, you just never know with this back line. And Mustafa says exactly that. He says Zapata should not be there in this lineup. He is very slow in decision making, and I think Gomez should be there in the lineup instead. Second thing, I don't want Bertolacci to start. Locatelli should be there. So I think what you're suggesting there is that Locatelli plays beside Montolivo, and of course, Gustavo Gomez replacing Zapata. I think that's an hypothesis. I think it's a very good thing to actually accept Gustavo Gomez instead of Zapata. He did have his troubles last game, Gustavo Gomez. He did have some difficulties containing, but that's mainly also due because Kuchka wasn't capable of playing his position. Deulofeu should be able to play a better role than Kuchka in that position tomorrow because he has helped out defensively. He's capable of doing a good job both defensively and offensively. So really it shouldn't be a trouble to him. But Gustavo Gomez, besides the defending part, he did make some good challenges, at times risky, but then again, like I said, it's the same story every week with him and with the rest of Milan's defense. But, yeah, I might see Gustavo Gomez replacing Zapata there. I could definitely agree with that. And his decision-making, going back to what you said there, Mustafa, completely agree with that, and I kept stressing it over the week, even while I was talking to some friends. Zapata, just his decision making is shocking. Every time he needs at least 10 seconds to make up his mind whether he should pass it, whether he should send it up through a long ball. You just never know what Zapata has in his mind. And what bothers me the most with him is the littlest pressure that you put on him, he tends to mess things up. He tends to lose possession, make mistakes, make stupid back passes that could result in giveaways and breakaways for the opposition. And these are things that you cannot afford, not only at this point in the season, but over the whole season. You cannot afford players that can make mistakes like that. And a guy like him that has experience, at least per se, in his curriculum, should not be making those mistakes, should not be thinking over and over, where should I pass the ball? And you just simply cannot have players like that. And that is why I believe Zapata should be a sellable option this summer. Green Guy says Milan need to control the midfield. Like Montolivo said, we need to dominate. They cannot afford to sit back. We need to get the ball wide to Deulofeu and Van Jonia. And that's a very good observation there. Deulofeu and Van Jonia are going to be key elements tomorrow. Their job, like I said, it's not only to control the midfield, but they're supposed to help out the forwards. They're supposed to facilitate, send in the crosses to Back and Lapadula, get them in attacking spaces. That is exactly what Van Jonia and Deulofeu need to do tomorrow. But what you said there about Montolivo, with the say of dominating, I fully agree with that. Domination is something that we really haven't seen from Milan in recent weeks, hence why we weren't capable of winning in the past 5 matches, which were pretty much piled up with draws and losses. You know, when we control games, we are capable of choosing our own destiny. When we're sitting back, we just tend to absorb that pressure from the opposition, and it makes them create chances over and over again. Things that we cannot let happen. We need to be in control of the situation. We need to dominate, create as many chances as possible, and make sure that not only we score goals, but we defend our goal as well. Because Donnarumma has done a tremendous job over the season. In the past 5 games, he's had some hard time even controlling some shots. But the amount of shots he's received in the past 5 games is just incredible. And that's because the defense hasn't done a good enough job. And once again, that is the reason why a 3-5-2, to me at least, is a big risk. It's a big risk. Azam says Bertolacci has actually played well since he came back from injury. Some long passes and creativity back in the midfield. He also controls the ball well. Bertolacci, it's not as he has been the worst player on the pitch every week. Far from it, I think. He's done some decent things. But then again, decency. That's the word that you could characterize many of these players. That's what they are, because they're not much more than that. And even though Bertolacci could be a decent player, playing well at the moment, it's not good enough. It's not good enough to win games in the Serie A. And I already spoke about it in my previous video where I said, where I did some transfer talk regarding the possible players coming in. But guys like Bertolacci or Montolivo should be remaining at the club. I don't think they should be leaving exactly. But they should be players that should be sitting on the bench to come in to add that depth to the team. They should not be starters whatsoever next season. They're still good enough to have as backup players, but not as starters at all. Fia Creativity says, perfectly said, Gio, about the pressure against Zapata. Milan fan says Montolivo isn't fully fit. I think Sosa with Locatelli should play in the center. Fia Creativity also says this is the most important match of the season. Aniket says, Gio, will the players be overconfident due to the 9-man win? I don't think the players will be overconfident. To be honest with you, more than usual, the reason why we haven't been able to win the games, it's not because we were overconfident, but simply because we didn't go into these games with the intention of winning. We went there, to be honest, with just the intention of playing and hopefully getting a result. The way Atalanta played against us last week, and some might say, yes, we maybe allowed them to play in that fashion. The way that they played, regardless, is the way a team should play if they want to win games. The way that they were playing showed that they were a team that had an ambition. They had a point, a goal to reach. That was to reach Europa League, and that's exactly what they showed through that performance. Milan, unfortunately, it's actually funny to say, but they were very lucky to get that point against Atalanta last week, because what they did over the course of the match was absolutely nonsense. Okay? It was absolute bullshit. I can't stand when Milan plays in that fashion. And they're a team that's supposed to be willing to try to qualify for the Europa League, that's not the way you play. I'm sorry, but we have seen it not once, not twice, but in the past 5 games, we have seen it all along. And Milan, we keep saying it, they must change their mentality next week. They must think different. They must try harder. They must do this. They must do that. Yet again, it's the same exact story week in and week out. And we cannot make these mistakes in this point of the season. So I don't think it's about overconfidence. It's simply not presenting themselves in these games as winners. It's players that are there just to play for the fact of it. That's it. Milan fan also says, as I said in the match review against Atalanta, a 3-5-2 isn't for this Milan. We should go back to a 4-3-3, but I'm pretty sure that we can win this match as we did it with only 9 players. Aniket says, I actually like this 3-5-2 formation. A 4-3-3 was easy read for opponent coaches. Zapata worries me in possession though. Yannick says, I miss the good old 4-3-1-2 with the trequartista, I guess you're suggesting. Mustafa says, why do you think Montella is using the 3-5-2 in the past few weeks? Is he going to try this formation for the next season, or he just needed a change? Personally, I don't think that it's something that he's willing to implement as an official starting formation for next season. I think it's simply for a change, because prior to the Atalanta match, the past 4 games we went with that 4-3-3, and I think, like Aniket mentioned, opponents were figuring us out, and I completely agree with that. It's a very predictable formation because every time we could see it from home, but every time Milan was attacking, all they were doing was attacking through those wings. Suso and Deulofeu, all the time. And really, there was no creativity whatsoever from the middle. Sucks to say, but that's what it was. That's why with a 3-5-2, you have more options there to create. You have the wingers, you have more men at the mids that could push through and attack in more numbers, because let's be honest, here we could attack with 7 players almost, maybe even 6 or 7 players, whereas in a 4-3-3, yes, you could still attack with 6 players, but what Milan was really attacking with was always with their wingers. Nothing was going through that middle if you look at it. So yeah, I think it was to change something, to see if we could maybe get more goals, or just be less predictable against opponents. And we saw it for the first time last week, so we cannot make judgments after the first time. But what I saw last week wasn't particularly nice, and hopefully it will be different this time. But then again, it's a change that I think was made maybe a bit too late in the season to actually implement it and risk it. It's something that should have been, transitioned throughout the course of the season rather than in the last few weeks. Just a few more comments before I sign off. Sammy says tomorrow's game is important because Inter plays Lazio tomorrow and Fiorentina play Napoli today. Well, what's even more important is actually today's game, because if Fiorentina don't win against Napoli and we win regardless of what happens against in the Inter match, we make it. So that's what matters the most. Jim 10 says, hey Gio, a long time ago I heard rumors about Wenger as a new manager. What do you think? Complete bullshit. Not even gonna answer that because it's not even possible. And Milan will be going once again with Montella next season, as Fasone and Mirabelli have already stated, with the Chinese. One last question here coming in from Aniket. He says, Gio, what is your view on Locatelli getting benched continuously? He plays pretty good when given a chance, with maybe a couple of rookie mistakes at times. He is better than Sosa in that position. I do agree that he has done good things this season. He could be better than Sosa. To be honest with you, like, Locatelli has always been a player that was only played mostly due to the fact that Montolivo got injured, and therefore Milan needed a replacement. Locatelli was that replacement for Montolivo, He did very good things. I think he showed a lot of things to the fans. Fans probably weren't even expecting to see those things from Locatelli this season. But the thing about him being benched, in my opinion, is not only about Montolivo coming back, but I think it's come to the point where Montella is actually trying to field players that have a bit more say or character. Now, that's not really the reason, but what I'm saying here is, for example, Montolivo is the captain, right? Maybe he should not be captain, but when he comes on the field, him being there could be a factor of how players react, as opposed to Locatelli being there. It might be a bit confusing to understand, but what I'm trying to say is that at this point of the season, you need different characters, and not only who deserves to play instead. Now, I hope that makes sense, but for example, Pasalic has been a guy that's been playing consistently all season. He's been scoring goals, he's been doing this, assists, and so forth, and that is why he has a say over other players in that starting 11. Montolivo, like I said, he's the captain, and he needs to have some sort of say, some sort of character in the team at this point of the season. Some sort of determination to give to other players in the team. Bertolacci as well. Like someone said before, he's been playing well when given the chance. It's a sort of mix and match at the moment. You cannot really say a player deserves it more than another. It's personally, I think, what Montella also sees in training sessions over the course of weeks. What's important though is that we get the result. Personally, I don't care who plays, okay? I could even see Kuchka, Jose Sosa. I could see the worst of the worst players playing. As long as we win the match, I don't care who plays, okay? That's my vision on this team. The team is created not for all players to play. It's created for certain players to play and others to replace them when those players cannot play, okay? If we are capable of winning as a team, if we are capable of getting the 3 points as a team, I could care who plays. I could care less about who plays. Okay? All that matters is that we get the 3 points. One last question here. Mustafa says, Joe, do you trust the Chinese ownership and their capabilities in financing the club? Yes, they have already showed their great intentions coming into next month. So yes, I'm definitely trusting them. It's definitely a good positive change to have. That's gonna wrap it up for the match preview, guys. Still not sure whether we will be having a live stream watch along tomorrow. Chances are we might not, but there will be a match review for sure. So make sure you subscribe to Rossoneri TV to stay updated with everything going on at AC Milan, and also please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. If you missed the transfer recap video that we did a few hours ago, make sure to check that out as well. It's out on the channel where we speak about the latest transfer news and rumors. So I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow for another video. This has been Gio signing off, and as always, Forza Milan.